Here are 3 storylines that will define the second half of the PVF. So first, we're going to talk about, will Orlando be able to stay on top, dominating with 8 wins in a row? And then also, will Brittany Abercrombie be able to become the MVP of the season, or become the MVP of the league?
First, talk about Brittany Abercrombie. Obviously, she's having a super dominant season. I think right now she's averaging 4.62 kills per set, which is insane. And then it's on 31.1% efficiency, which for the PVF is super good. She's still like around top 10, top 15 in the league in efficiency, which is crazy for the amount of volume she's getting.
Yeah, I mean, even when you just look at the stats like along the league, she's actually up there with the hitting percentage and the efficiency.
Yep.
Compared to middles.
Yeah, it's kind of nasty.
It's disgusting what she's able to do. Where, I mean, she's just been that dominant, and she's been able to carry.
Yeah, and I think she's leading the leagues in kills by far. She has 245 kills, and then the next person is Leah Edmond with 201. So she's leading by 44 kills total, which is almost unheard of in this league. It's only the second season, but she's on pace to absolutely demolish the kill record from last season, which is crazy.
Yeah, and honestly, she just won Player of the Week, and I feel like that to me is something that can help cement her as maybe getting the MVP this season, just because she had a game where she got 24 kills.
Yeah,
in a 3-set match is just absurd.
Yeah, winning a whole set in 3 sets
Yeah.
is crazy.
And then she ended the 3rd set with 11 kills in 1 set. I mean, that's
half the set pretty much.
You won your team half of your points. It's pretty crazy what she's able to do.
Yeah, I mean, she's basically not carrying Orlando, but she is the outstanding part of their offense. So
For sure.
You got to take that into account, especially because they're on this 8-game win streak and they're basically on top of the league. I think they've beaten pretty much every team in the league so far. So
yeah, they beat every team besides San Diego.
Yes, during the win streak, but to start off the season, they beat San Diego twice already. So
yeah,
it's all good. They've beaten every single team in the league so far.
Yeah,
and they looked good doing it. Aside from their early like skid at the beginning of the season, probably to like mesh, they're looking great right now.
Yeah, I mean, a rough start, but then I mean, I feel like they've just been improving, and I think they've just been building up momentum.
Yeah, it is crazy because the other top teams, they've beaten Omaha twice, they've beaten Atlanta twice, and it's super dominant.
Yeah.
Like, I think during this 8-game win streak, they've only dropped 4 sets, and 2 of them were just recently to Atlanta. So they won on a 7-game win streak and lost only 2 sets. So that just proves their dominance because they were getting 3-0s left and right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just with a balanced team, obviously you have a go-to hitter.
Yep.
And she's just been able to dominate on that side. So there's not really much that other teams have been able to do to stop them so far.
Yeah, and I think something that's really setting Orlando apart is that because they do have this one true dominant right side, it's kind of placing them in this like style of volleyball that we're seeing in League One and just in general across the world, where you want the dependable right side because that's just basically the meta right now. And I think in the PVF, they're basically the only ones who have it to this level.
Yeah, I feel like when you look at any of the top teams in the world, and this could be even looking at internationally and for countries even, when you're playing in the Olympics, these best teams in the world have a dominant right side.
Yep.
Obviously, they're not always going to be dominant, but they have a right side that is a go-to hitter. They're going to be able to put balls down, and Orlando is one of the teams that has one.
Yeah, and I think they're the only ones who have one to this level.
For sure,
especially.
yeah.
So I think they're just playing on the kind of like they're playing on the highest level of volleyball right now, or the meta level of volleyball, and other teams just aren't quite there yet.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like other teams can keep up so far. So definitely Orlando's been continuing that hot streak.
Yeah, obviously I don't think that they're going to finish out the season completely undefeated, but I'm pretty sure we can look forward to the rest of the season being a little bit more dominant. Obviously, of course, barring any injuries,
For sure.
But I think they will look at like the top team for pretty much the rest of the PVF season. So that's my prediction.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think that Orlando I could see them honestly, maybe losing one or two more games and that's it, and being able to dominate their way through the rest of the season, just because they do look like they're a step ahead of their competition. So
yeah, I think especially if you're looking at the PVF from a neutral point of view, this would be the team to kind of look out for, because they're probably the most fun. They're probably the most playing to the level of like international standards. So if there is any team that you just want to keep an eye on, watching a little bit more casually, I'd definitely pick Orlando. So you can move on.
all right, and then next we have, where does Indy Ignite stand as a contender?
Yeah, this is a super interesting one because they are the expansion team for this season. So normally with any other league, you kind of don't expect the expansion teams to be doing so well. So it's super interesting to see them in like the top 3, top 4 type range. So I think it's super fun. The fans are really, really turning out for Indy.
God.
It's crazy. So I think Indy is like another team that you need to kind of watch, especially if you enjoy kind of the crowd and like people showing up to games. I think they've had the best turnout for the PVF in general.
Yeah, I think whenever you watch any of those games, obviously we haven't been there in person, but when you watch them on TV or online, that might be the most electric arena that they play in. And it's crazy that this is their first time in the league, while all these other teams have been in there, but they're the one that is bringing all the attention and like a lot of energy whenever you watch it. And it's really fun to see.
Yeah. I think one thing especially of note is that Caitlin Clark turned up to one of their games early on in the season. That's super cool. That is also bringing the attention that kind of volleyball wants. So love to see it.
Game recognizes game, for sure. And I don't know if people, maybe watch him, but he's huge. Pat McAfee, obviously he's in Indianapolis as well. And even he talked about it on his show. And his show pulls a lot of traffic, a lot of people that would see that. And he talked about the Indy Ignite for a whole segment, which is just really awesome to see, that maybe you get people that don't regularly watch volleyball, especially pro volleyball, because it's new right now.
Yeah.
Maybe you bring in a lot more viewers.
So they're definitely the team that you kind of want to keep an eye on for the second half of the season. I think they have a lot of really good players, a lot of electric players. It just, I would say that they're not fully matching up well to the top teams, but you would definitely keep them in the top half, and I would expect them to make the playoffs, if not try and push for that 1-2 spot.
Yeah, I think that they have the ability to do that just because of, since this is their first season together, I think they're only going to build more chemistry.
Yeah.
Where these other teams, they've been together for a little bit longer, and, you kind of have to figure your way out through it. And they've only played like 10 matches. It's not a lot of matches that they played so far. So I think with time, I think they might be able to get even better.
Yeah. So we are truly like about halfway into the season, and Indy has looked great. I think they have the best setter, so that's super cool to watch, like look out for and continue to watch. But they are not showing up against the top teams. They got 0-3'd by Omaha 2 times already, and I think they beat Orlando once, but that was during Orlando's like early skid.
Yeah.
And then they also again lost to Orlando, so they're not matching up well to the top 2 teams, and it's going to be hard to see how they're going to match up in the end.
Yeah, I think if you had to put these teams in tiers of contention, I'd definitely say that they're a tier below.
Yeah.
But you have to give them the respect that they do have a puncher's chance. They have a chance to be able to go in there on one match on whatever day, and that they could still go out there and win it, for sure.
Yeah. I don't think that they're a team to ever look down on, so definitely one of the must-watch teams of the league.
Yeah. All right, and finally for the PVF, will Atlanta be able to catch up? They should be good, but they have a great amount of players, but it just really hasn't been clicking yet so far.
Yeah, looking at the roster, they should be one of the top teams. I mean, they have Leah Edmond, the reigning MVP. They have the best libero in the league, according to like most people, almost fully like consensus. They have the best libero, Morgan Hens.
Yeah.
Like, you have 2 of the top players in the league. You have 2 of the top players in the league at their positions. You can't be hanging around 4 or 5. You really want to be up there 1-2.
And not to mention, they have a middle in Corey Lewis that has been super efficient. She's been very good for them. Now it's just, can they put together wins?
Yeah, it's super weird. I mean, I would say that they are pushing themselves into that top 4. I think Vegas is looking a little bit rougher. They had a very great start to the season, but it's looking a little tough for them. And I think Atlanta can push for that 4 spot, but when you have such a stacked roster, I mean, they also have Merritt Beeson, who is supposed to be like the top recruit, the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So when you have such a good roster, you really want to see them pushing that number 1, number 2 seed, but it really doesn't look like it right now. They're 0-4 versus the top 2 seeds.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to kind of say for them at this point, it has been disappointing.
Yeah.
I think just because of, again, like the talent that they have, they shouldn't be down this far in the standings, but we'll have to see. I think the good thing is when you do have a lot of great veteran players, that you should be able to, kind of pull it out of the mud, and you're going to be able to still climb up and maybe get into the obviously they should be able to in the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs this season, I mean, that's definitely disappointing.
Yeah, that would be probably if they don't make the playoffs this season, that will be the most disappointing story of the PVF.
Yeah. I don't think they can be happy with their season if they don't make it.
Yeah.
Now, they should still have their eyes on trying to win the whole thing, though, just because of the team. And obviously, they haven't had the greatest season, but with the talent that they have, you really have to think that they should be up there.
Yeah, I don't think there's any excuse for them to not make playoffs, and there's no excuse that we shouldn't be considering them a contender. And right now, we're not.
Yeah, they're not there.
Yeah.
But again, we're only halfway through the season. You might be able to see them climb up even more, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think they did just play very close game against Orlando. They did have that 3-2 loss, but you still want to see them play out wins in those types of games.
Yeah.
So I think that covers most of it for Atlanta.